into the big 1-2 here on 365 Sports, brought to you by Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Don't forget about $4 Boone's Farm on Saturdays. JD and I are going to do that one of these Saturdays for sure. We're going to make that happen. I'm Paul Catalina. He's JD Piquel. And JD, the season's here. Big 12 week 1. The report card's pretty good. Outside of West Virginia, everybody won. And West Virginia might have had one of the tougher opponents in Maryland. You called that one last week. I didn't. I thought, I have no faith in Maryland. But you thought, West Virginia was in trouble. We'll start with that one because that's the only loss. So that's the first team that gets a failing grade.
Sure.
Because they lost. You can't pass if you don't win. And, you might be encouraging, but you can't pass if you don't win. Mm-hmm. And they lost to Maryland. Jarret Doege might be a problem.
Jarret Doege, I think they just asked him to do too much too soon, potentially. Didn't really ease him into it. Careless with the football. That defense also couldn't stop anything in the pass game. Like, Taulia Tagovailoa was good. Is he that good? Did the West Virginia defense make him look better than he really is? It remains to be seen. But, yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to pass if you lose. There's still encouraging things to take from that game. I think the defense as a whole for West Virginia is going to be good. There's some things they need to shore up, but they have a lot of good players on that defense. Getting it all to gel is going to be a whole different story. So I think they'll be okay, but I think Maryland also might be better than some people expect. Now, I called that when it's better to be lucky than good sometimes, and that's what I think I was last week, was lucky picking Maryland. But all things considered, West Virginia's got the tools. Doege, I think, needs to be a little bit reined in terms of his responsibilities for that offense.
Yeah. All right, we'll just kind of go in order of how the games played out here. First off, on Friday night last week, Kansas gets a win over South Dakota. There's not much you can really say about Kansas. They won 17-14 and had to score a touchdown in the fourth quarter to win the game. But they got their first win in almost 2 years. So Lance Leipold, congratulations. You're 1-0. This is the only time this year you will probably be anything and 0. So
I mean, yeah. You got to get 1 win before you get 2 wins.
Yeah.
You got to go 1-0 before you can go 2-0 if you're Kansas. But yeah, that's probably the last time we'll see them win for a minute. I think the Vegas odds have them at like a half a win in conference play.
Coastal Carolina this week.
That's going to be bad. It's going to be rough. And they scheduled that probably however long ago, thinking, oh, Coastal Carolina, we'll get another non-conference game, seemingly easy opponent. And, I mean, that's just bad luck if you're Kansas.
Jamie Chadwell, a builder, and he's going to spring himself, I'm sure, into a bigger job soon enough.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind. Here's the deal. There's a bunch of, when we talk about realignment, there's a bunch of, dream locations that I think conference fans have for trips. Again, Coastal Carolina, San Diego State probably bring you nothing as far as, the conference overall in the meet, but wouldn't you love to just get a couple years, go out to Carolina, get nice on the coast there?
A little Outer Banks action, just hang out on the beach, balling at the beach was their hashtag a while ago. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Eat some oysters.
Great.
Yeah.
Tell me the athletic directors or the powers that be didn't want to go hang out on the beach.
I mean, who cares about?
I guess they got UCF.
Who cares about your money? UCF's in the middle of Florida, though. It's a Disney World.
Oh, okay. So that shows my geography understanding of Florida.
It's in Orlando. So, granted, it's theme parks.
Disney World.
But right? You're still an hour from the beach in either direction, minimum.
Okay.
So.
Tough draw. Bottom line, Kansas.
Minutes.
I mean, so we give Kansas a C+.
Let's give them a C+ because they got to win.
Yeah, pass, fail, they're passing.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah,
good deal.
All right, Baylor and Texas State, a game you and I talked about at length after the game on our post-game show. But Baylor probably should have blown Texas State out. Mm-hmm. They did not. There were some things. For example, I think the game is different if the replay works and Josh Fleek scores a touchdown early.
Yep.
I think that kind of affected their confidence, but replay not working, the production value of that game, and when you hear people complaining about production value and think that's not just for our own edification entertainment, it had a game, it cost points in a game because the Texas State was not ready for that.
Some people could have covered. I think it was minus 14 or minus 13, and they ended up winning by 9. Yeah. Add a touchdown to that. Maybe some people are a little more happy with the outcome in Vegas.
JD, that's a fantastic point. So there are real-world consequences to, your student-led production team. And now, on the way down, that's ESPN's problem because that's what they reap what they sow. They wanted to find the cheapest way to do Tier 3 rights, and they said, well, we'll just give you a channel on the streaming, and we'll pick up your in-house broadcast with your radio crew.
Absolutely. I mean, you encourage what you allow.
Yeah,
you encourage what you allow. And I'm grateful they allowed to have some of the other smaller conference games because my alma mater plays on that channel. But Yeah, that had real world implications, cost people a lot of money.
Yeah.
As for the game itself, I give Baylor about a B.
Yeah.
Give them a B. Balls on the ground twice, lose one of them, run for over 200 yards. Defense looks good. Situationally had some problems, but all things considered, you pass. You don't pass the flying colors, but you're good enough. We'll move you on to the next game.
Yeah,
That's great.
absolutely. And they weren't trying to show a lot. I don't think they were trying to show a lot. I think a lot of people are concerned they got to hit those deep passes. I mean, like they've got it. That's not showing your whole offense. Mm-hmm. That's just not hitting. Everybody knows they're going to try to throw the ball deep. That's what that offense is we're gonna draw you in, and make you so worried about that run game, and then look, your safety's in the box. Mm-hmm. Let's go to the house. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt you against Texas State. Probably hurts you against Iowa State because you had probably 3 or 4-ish shots against Texas State. You probably have 1 or 2 against Iowa State. You can't miss on those because those are going to be game-changing plays. Yeah.
And they got Texas Southern and Kansas coming up. Those are games where you've got to hit that and get that in rhythm. Gary Bohannon, another couple weeks at quarterback, he'll probably be better at that. He can get the ball to the yard line he wants it to. Can he get it to the guy standing or running to that yard line?
Yeah.
I think you could tell him if it was just about getting it distance-wise, about 65 yards that he could be like, sure, absolutely, I can get it there.
They call him Gary Bohannon.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do, but I just call him
again,
that.
Is the guy going to be there, Gary Bohannon? I like that.
It might stick, it might stick.
You never know. Well, he has to hit some of those deep passes, and then Jerry Bohannon, TM, JD Pical.
There we go.
Will be there. All right, Oklahoma and Tulane. Oklahoma gets about a C- from me on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because their offense was their offense, and they were fine, but they let Tulane, and Willie Fritz, who's a fantastic coach. If you don't know anything about Willie Fritz, just watch how Tulane plays. Watch his other stops. His teams, whether they're not be great, he's a fantastic coach, and he is especially good at figuring out where the weakness is and exploiting it to their benefit. And Tulane crept back in that game after down more than 20, and they're up early, which isn't surprising. But for Oklahoma to let them creep back in like that gives me a little bit of concern about Oklahoma. I think they'll get it right, but that was concerning if you're an Oklahoma fan.
Yeah, a lot of credit to be given to Tulane, like you said, especially with all the circumstances they have going on with the hurricane and being displaced and their families and all of that. Tons of credit to them to being able to play that game and play the game at the level they did. At the same time, you look at Oklahoma and you're like, were y'all just reading the press clippings all offseason long? Spencer Rattler got greedy. We talked about it in the previous Chalk Talk. Forcing throws in double coverage, making poor decisions with the football, putting the ball in jeopardy. He had 2 interceptions, a third one that got called back because of a pass interference call. And then on the defense, it took him about a quarter and a half to really get going. And so if you're Oklahoma, you can't take a quarter and a half against Texas. You can't take a quarter and a half against Iowa State if you want to be able to win this conference like everyone's saying you should. So I think it's a good come back down to earth game for Oklahoma. But in terms of just that game, just that sample size, C-. I'm right there with you. They passed, but barely.
If I'm any of the other teams in Tulane's conference, I'm a little bit worried about playing Tulane now. If they can go to Norman and be an onside kick away from making Lincoln Riley do this.
Yeah, which they recovered the onside kick too and just couldn't get the fourth down. They came about half a yard short on the fourth down scramble.
Yeah, that's right. They are a shoulder pad. Honestly, the shoulder pad hitting, this much further down from a measurement and all that and making it nerve-wracking.
Yeah, to really get in the weeds. They should have extended that drive. He didn't extend the ball. And, if he extends the ball, who knows what happens. So dodged a bullet early. And we've kind of seen this from previous Oklahoma teams, like the overtime win against Army a couple of years ago. And Army's a good team. But we've seen them sort of play with their food a little bit in the early going.
I think that, I don't know, it's hard when you are so good so often. Sometimes you can, and you can point this out for a lot of teams. Clemson has had a problem with Syracuse the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It just, and whether they beat them or not, the one time they lost to them, but whether they beat them or not, it's just they're Syracuse,
right?
And Oklahoma might have some of that. And it's hard. You got to play 12 regular season games. It's hard to care about Tulane as much as you're going to care about Texas or Iowa State or Oklahoma State. You have rivals that you're going to stare down. And the non-conference game is Tulane. It's easy for the guys to be like, okay, well, Tulane.
Especially when the entire offseason, everyone's saying, you're going to the playoff this year. This is your year to win the national championship. You're going to get over the hump. And then it's you still have to play Tulane week 1. Totally with you. It's just it's a hard. What was Nick Saban called the rat poison?
Yeah,
taking the rat poison if you're Oklahoma.
Yeah. Iowa State, Northern Iowa, 16-10 Iowa State. Not the best showing for Iowa State, but their defense was their defense, and that's what they're going to be built on. And their offense is never going to have, games where they're scoring 56 points. Even in this kind of thing, that's not really what they're trying to do. I'm not as concerned because their defense was still clearly intact. Offense concerns me a little tiny bit, but I also think in the realm of let's not show anything because they have Iowa this week in Cyhawk. I think they weren't going to show anything. That one is going to be, it's going to be bloody. Yeah. That's going to be two hard-nosed teams just knocking the crap out of each other. So I think in the spirit of not showing a lot, they didn't show a lot, and they got out. And that's fine because Northern Iowa does not have the horses, but they did not really open anything up. It was very vanilla. So we'll see against Iowa this week what happens, because that's a huge game for them. Not only for, like in the Big 12 picture, that Iowa game doesn't matter, but in the picture of, okay, if you do get in the playoff, if you do win the Big 12, and you are that one of the 4 teams in the playoff, should people take you seriously or not?
Completely.
And if they lose to Iowa, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should either.
Right. Yeah, even if they win this game or if they lose this game, let's say they're a 1-loss conference champion and their 1 loss is to Iowa. It's a pretty good 1 loss to have on your resume, but I'm agreeing with you in the sense that the Northern Iowa game, it's hard not to look past Northern Iowa and look at Iowa, the Cyhawk, it's at home. College game day is now coming there. They didn't know that at the time, obviously, but I'm with you. Very vanilla. Brock Purdy was like 20 for 26. He was really efficient. The only concerning thing to me is Breece Hall had 23 carries for 69 yards. That's not what Breece Hall does. He's your workhorse. You're going to give him the ball. He's going to get 4 or 5 yards a clip, especially against a team like Northern Iowa. And so that concerns me just a touch. But the defense is the defense. They did enough to get out. I worry about how much they're going to open it up for Brock Purdy against Iowa, because the fact they wouldn't open it up or weren't able to open it up for whatever reason against Northern Iowa in the passing game is something I'm going to look at much closer in the Cyhawk game. So you got it done, but again, just kind of by the skin of your chinny chin chin.
Yeah. A game that everybody thought was going to be closer than it was and wasn't was all Texas and Louisiana. Yeah. Bijan Robinson, who we're going to talk about in Chalk Talk later in the show, really showed what he can do. 20 carries, 103 yards and a touchdown, and, of course, 4 catches for 73 and a touchdown. So you're looking at 24 touches for 176 yards and 2 scores, and that was like – kind of not all, like letting him all completely out of the barn.
Yeah.
But I think we've seen, here's the biggest difference between Tom Herman and Steve Sarkisian is Tom Herman did not believe in the playmakers outside of the quarterback. He was always, he wanted everything to run through the quarterback. Here, Steve Sarkisian does not believe in that at all. He wants every playmaker to be involved. It's, we're going to get you we're going to get you every which way we can. And Hudson Card, 14 of 21, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, over 200 yards passing. Casey Thompson played. They don't need to do that anymore. Hudson Card's your guy. Go with Hudson Card. Texas, they didn't look spectacular. Like I wasn't, oh my God, here they are. And again, you have to kind of take them like you take the Cowboys. Like, oh, they might look good, but they'll do what they do and not win a game here soon. But Texas gets an A for the first week in the report card.
No, I'm with you. I give him an A, and I was really encouraged by the way Hudson Card was playing point guard. He was just facilitating to Bijan Robinson, to Jordan Whittington, to his playmakers. Even Roshan Johnson looked really good in the run game, being a compliment to Bijan Robinson. So I was really encouraged to see the Sark era off to a hot start and see them play his style of offense. You wonder how much that's going to be implemented going forward, because again, you think they probably kept some things close to the vest, but Hudson Card's your guy. Like you said, he took hold of the job, which was what we wanted to see in that first game. Will there be some guy be the alpha, be the top dog, be the quarterback, your QB1? And so we saw that, which I was really encouraged by. Also, the defense held Louisiana to like 76, 79 yards rushing. That's no slouch of a football team in Louisiana that likes to run the football. So there's a lot of things to be encouraged about if you're Texas. And Louisiana, a ranked team. Granted, they got them at home. They got them in Austin. But still, to beat a ranked team by double digits in your first game as the head coach with your first year starting quarterback, a lot of positives for Texas.
Yeah. Kansas State really bullied Stanford around. It really did. 24-7. That was a Chris Kleiman game. Like that was, and that's a good opponent because they're both similar styles and that they're going to grind it out, play good defense. Stanford, grumpy about the kickoff time and all that. But at the end of the day, Kansas State physically won that game up front, ran the ball, only had to throw 14 passes to win the game. Deuce Vaughn had over 100 yards. That was a Chris Kleiman game. They're going to win more games than they lose this year, in my opinion, because they play that style of football. They're not going to win the Big 12, but they might ruin somebody's chance to win the Big 12.
Totally agree. And it was impressive to see them win that game against a team like Stanford that really tries to do essentially what Kansas State does: run the football, play good defense. You're going to pass when you need to, but not all the time necessarily rely on it. So for Skylar Thompson to come out and be efficient, he had a good rushing touchdown as well. He's a playmaker with his legs, which is something they can rely on as well, to a compliment to Deuce Vaughn. A lot of things working for Kansas State. Also, the defense looked great. Forced some turnovers, forced Stanford into passing situations. The defensive line looked really effective. They were wreaking havoc, as typical Kansas State defensive lines do. So a lot of things to be encouraged about really across the board in the Big 12, but Kansas State playing an opponent like Stanford that first game has to be a confidence builder for you the rest of the way.
Yeah, and to me, the surprise of the week was Texas Tech beating Houston. Houston had that game in control, let it go. Texas Tech comes back and wins. Not only did Houston have that game in control and let it go, they got blown out by 17 points. So Texas Tech was able to smell blood in the water when they finally got back in and then hit the gas, which is huge for Matt Wells because that team has had no identity yet. And Tyler Shuck, a decent game. I mean, nothing glorious, but a decent game. And they got good running the ball. They got pretty much get everything from the second half on. And Houston's got to be kicking themselves for an opportunity to take one from a Big 12 opponent, a future conference mate. And they did not have that. Pretty impressed with Texas Tech. I'll give them a B this week. Again, they've got to do it again and again, but I certainly am very impressed with Texas Tech.
Credit to Texas Tech. The character of their team to be down against a team that you really shouldn't be down to. Be really easy to pack it in and say, oh, this always happens to us. We're Texas Tech. We never beat anybody we're supposed to beat, and just kind of get down. Kicked it into overdrive. Defense kicked it into overdrive. We're really opportunistic the rest of the way after getting down. Tyler Shuck, like you said, played well enough to win. I think they're going to open it up for him more as they progress throughout the season. They're going to have to lean on him. Tyler Shuck's going to have to be your guy going forward for Texas Tech. Obviously, you have playmakers on the outside that can do a lot for you, but really a balanced attack all the way around for Texas Tech, which I was encouraged to see, and more than anything, the defense showing up when they needed it to.
Yeah. One game that should raise some flags: Oklahoma State 23, Missouri State 16. Not what you wanted for Oklahoma State. No Spencer Sanders, out with COVID, and that was kind of a last-minute deal, so I understand that, throwing a wrench in the machine. But outside of that, you didn't see a lot of playmakers for Oklahoma State, which they've had recently in the past. They've got people. They need to have people step up and take on those roles. No Chuba Hubbard, no Tylan Wallace. Those guys are gone now. They're in the NFL. So when Spencer Sanders does come back, they're going to need to have something outside that can help him because Shane Illingworth, he played and he threw for 300 yards and threw for a touchdown. But, again, it's Missouri State. It should have been more than a touchdown win.
Yeah. Credit to him to stepping in and being able to play on what I'm sure was late notice, like you mentioned. But, you just kind of scratch your head at Oklahoma State and say, you can only beat them by a touchdown if you're Oklahoma State. Missouri State, you really can't handle them by more than one score with still all the horses you have, all the firepower you have still. I mean, you still have guys like Brendan Presley on your receiving core. You still have, I'm sure, a stable of backs that are better than whoever Missouri State has on defense. And so a lot to be concerned about. But you wonder in some of these opening games, okay, is this the come to Jesus moment a lot of these teams need to say, okay, we got a lot we got to figure out. We're not good enough to just walk out there and sleepwalk and get a win against Missouri State. We were today with our second-string quarterback, but is that going to be the way that we can go the rest of the season? Resounding no if you're Oklahoma State. You're going to have to play your best game week in and week out to be able to contend with some of these Big 12 teams.
All right, the only thing we need to talk about with Duquesne and TCU is that it was such a blowout at halftime that Duquesne's like, look, we got to get it back on the plane. We're going to do 12-minute quarters here. And that's literally what happened. The coaches agreed, let's do 12-minute quarters. It was 45-3, shortened second half. Duquesne got a field goal in the third quarter, and I'm sure they felt great about that. We'll talk more about TCU as they play opponents that can match them. TCU should be pretty decent this year, as we've talked about before on the show, but nothing to really talk about this game. It happened exactly as it should have, maybe even more exactly as it should have, because they shortened the quarters. I've only seen that happen a couple other times. One of them was here. Baylor was playing, I think it was it was somebody. I mean, it was a team that were blown out. Yeah. An FCS school blowing them out. There's a lot of rain. They came out and they played running clock, and in the second half so they can make the game official.
I mean, if you're either one of these coaching staffs, how do you explain that to your team? Hey guys, we're 12-minute quarters rest of the way. It's nothing because of you. It's not your fault. Just, we want to get home on time, and NCAA rules, we only get so long with you, so we got to, squeeze this in here so we can get more practice time. I mean, that just would be a huge blow to morale for Duquesne.
And the Duquesne coach, I'm just saying, like, listen, guys, we knew what this was.
Yeah.
You know what this is.
We got our check. We got our money.
Yeah. Don't want you to get, like, we're going to take 6 minutes off this game, so hopefully none of you die. So, it's fine.
Brutal.
I think you ever see the movie Necessary Roughness?
Who's in that?
Scott Bakula.
It's not ringing a bell.
Okay. Well, there's a scene where they play. It's kind of a spoof of The Longest Yard, where like this college team like plays a practice against this prison team, and it's just this one scene, and it's all these NFL players like Too Tall Jones and Jim Kelly, and Evander Holyfield's one of them, and he's getting back on the bus, and he's like, "Man, I don't feel so good. I think I swallowed a finger," and they beat him so bad. That's how I think about these FCS games. Is like he's like, "Man, I don't feel so good."
That's not good at all.
I think I swallowed a finger.
Hopefully, no finger swallowing.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of how these FCS games go. All right, when we come back, the obligatory realignment segment with real realignment news. This is the big one, too, brought to you by Shorty's Pizza Shack on 365 Sports. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th at Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by. Welcome back to the big one, too, brought to you by Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Look, if you're coming here for game day, and there's a home game this weekend for Baylor, the game day spot, Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Fantastic pizza, fantastic wings. Get the Sikkim sauce. Tell them I told you the Sikkim sauce. And it's unbelievable. Pizza pillows, great drink specials, $4 Boone's Farm on Saturday.
Okay.
You can do that.
I'm there.
Yeah, exactly.
Done deal.
So, yeah,
Pencil
do it.
us in.
Yeah, and it's just great food, great time, cool atmosphere.
What is the Sikkim sauce akin to, for those of us who haven't tried it yet?
It is a combination of wing sauce and honey mustard. And on the surface, that may not sound like it would work, but not only does it work, it's
kind of sweet and spicy.
Yeah, it's got this
come together
like,
and
tangy, sweet. It's awesome.
Okay, well, I know what I'm doing after the show.
Yeah, there you go.
Done.
Sikkim sauce at Shorty's Pizza Shack. Okay, real realignment news. Voting goes on this week among the conference, and this is, I can't say it's definitely going to happen. It's happening. Mm-hmm. Things are happening. UCF, BYU, Houston, Cincinnati coming into the league probably in 2023, according to Pete Thamel of Yahoo.com. So what we've been talking about for weeks, JD, is happening. Real expansion in the Big 12. TV money, we're getting reports, although unconfirmed, that it's going to be in the $20 to $25 million range. And that doesn't include third-tier rights, which you can make more of. So we'll see how it shakes out. But they've got 4 teams coming in, and it's probably the best 4 you could get.
Yeah, I think you pretty much knock it out of the park with all 4 of these. The one that surprises me the most is Houston, because in my mind, I'm saying, okay, if I'm an athletic director in the Big 12, we are now arming another school in our state with Big 12 firepower when it comes to recruiting. And so that's the only one where I was kind of like, Houston, really? I'm great with it. I think it'll be great for the on-field product, and it's great because you have the Houston market in a lot of ways. You probably already had it because of having other alumni from Baylor and TCU and Texas Tech and all that. But for me, I was like, I'm on board with Houston, but why Houston? Why does that make sense in your mind? Explain that to me.
I agree with you. I think Houston makes sense in that it's the largest television market you can get into, which, if that counts for anything, might as well do it. It makes it a Texas-centric conference. You've got 4 teams in Texas. So maybe, politically, you can be like, oh, look, this league's run out of Texas. We got 4 teams here. On-field product is good. Again, that is a drawback. I would have personally, if I was selecting, would have had Memphis over Houston. But part of this is also might be are like Memphis and Boise State. If there might be a second round of this too, a Big 12 expansion. There are reports that once they kind of get settled in the 12 and figure out what that's going to be, and talk to the TV partners if they could go to 14 or 16, then schools like Memphis, Boise State, Colorado State, obviously could get teed up for this. Maybe USF in this. So there's other schools that could apply for membership, but I do think that Houston is more ready to jump in than maybe Memphis or Boise State was as far as having all their ducks in a row. That's not to say that those schools aren't close to having their ducks in a row. BYU has had their ducks in a row since they went independent. They've been waiting for this time to jump in. UCF has spent the last 5 years doing, maybe the last decade, but like the last 5 years in a big push of, we are ready to compete on a big stage. We've built a new stadium. We've spent all this money on athletics. We're on TV a lot. We've had big moments in big bowl games. Look, they beat Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl with Blake Bortles. They've done, like Mackenzie Milton had some big wins there. Dylan Gabriel, came back and beat BYU the other night. They've shown you their on-the-field product. Now, granted, that on-the-field product will change a little bit when you come into the Big 12, although given the fact that Oklahoma's leaving and Texas is leaving, it may not have to change as much as we all think. I mean, it might be akin to when TCU came in the league was good already. So they're ready to go. Houston was ready to go. Houston's been preparing for this, for a while, since the fake expansion happened a few years ago. And then Cincinnati was a Power 5 team before the last, big realignment shakeup when the Big East fell apart. So Cincinnati's been ready. These teams are ready to go. They're ready to turn up the volume right now. And I think that's why particularly Houston was ready to be in, because this is kind of like, it's that scene in Ocean's 11 where George Clooney just gives them the card and goes, so you're in out right now, because that's how it had to be. And so, you can pick up some other people along the way later, but right now you need people who are ready to go now, because you got to move fast. And I think that's why they are where they are.
And I think BYU obviously is probably the most, how do I say this? They feel like the most Power 5 team that's not a Power 5 team, if that makes sense. Now, UCF obviously just has the Group of 5 label. I think UCF is in position right away to be competitive, like you were saying, strictly because of recruiting. You're in the state of Florida. You now have a Power 5 branding with you. That's going to move the needle for a lot of kids of saying, okay, I could go to USF or I could go to UCF and play in a Power 5 conference in the Big 12 and go play schools like TCU every year, Oklahoma State every year. And so UCF, to me, I think, again, I keep going back to this metaphor of you're buying stock in these teams because you're assuming, okay, with our investment of giving you the Big 12 branding coming to our conference, you're going to grow and be better than when we found you however many years ago. And UCF feels like they can take off right now. Right away, they can be competitive. And now, how competitive is competitive? I think they could be probably upper middle tier at least. Like, I put them in the conference today. You're like, gosh, Oklahoma State only beat Missouri State by 7 points. You got to think that they got a chance to at least beat Missouri State by more than 7. So they'll have to keep recruiting, but especially if Gus Malzahn stays there, UCF, I think, could be a sleeping giant in this conference long term.
Well, now Gus has no reason to leave.
Yeah, why would you?
Exactly. Why would you leave? There's not. Sun. Again, he's already been to the SEC. He's been there and chewed up and spit out, even though he did get his team to a national championship game. But that's what Auburn does to the coaches who get to that game. They did it to Gene Chizik. They've done it to Gus Malzahn. There by the grace of God goes Brian Harsin. So
one of the toughest jobs in America.
Yeah, it's a tough one because you have the big brother. Like, it's not even like Texas and Texas A&M big brother situation. Okay, Florida and Florida State big brother situation. And Florida State eventually kind of like equaled or surpassed. A&M hasn't yet with Texas. And who knows if they ever really will. But they're trying.
Yeah.
Auburn has the biggest mountain to climb with the big brother in that their big brother's Alabama. That's the college football Vatican. So you can't – it's tough. It's tough to overcome, Bear Bryant, who – okay, 2 of the 5 greatest coaches of all time in college football coached at your place in every Alabama.
Yeah.
2 of the 5. Like, nobody else can say that.
Probably the top 2 of all time, probably.
Yeah, I mean, like
Bear Bryant and Saban, like that's been the conversation.
I mean, you can like split hairs on, but Bowden and Paterno and stuff like that. But like Saban is the greatest. Like, he's won more in an era where he had less scholarships and more people spending money than anyone else. Like, it's
more
not
obstacles.
Yeah, more obstacles than anyone else. Bear Bryant won a lot, yes, but like he also didn't have 85 scholarships.
Right.
He had whatever he wanted to do. back then. He didn't have to worry about Title IX taking away scholarships from him. Like, nobody cared what happened on the other side of the school. As long as the football team was going good, they could give, like, Notre Dame. You remember in Rudy, you know, there's the guy who could have had scholarships to 2 Big Ten schools, but went to Notre Dame to sit on the bench because his parents went there.
Sure.
You know, it was a legacy. That's how it used to be back then. It's like, listen, if Alabama offers you to go to Alabama, and then you realize, like, oh, I'm not playing here. Yeah. You know, like, but that doesn't work that way anymore. Transfer portal, all this stuff.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter, which has changed recruiting immensely.
Nick Saban is the greatest coach who's ever lived in college football.
I'm sold. Yeah.
No question. And people in the comments may want to fight me on this. Okay. I mean, look at the jewelry. Let's look at his jewelry.
That's not a fair conversation.
Compared to all that stuff. So, yeah, there's they have 2 of the most. So you can't get over that. But back to the Big 12 and realignment, I think this is a great thing. I think it's good. I think there's positivity. Now, look, could it have been better? Could the thing whole have not happened? Yes. Fine. But we are where we are now. UCF's coming in. It's a growing school, a huge alumni base. BYU got a huge fan base that multiplies exponentially at the time because, you know, that's what they do.
Every day there's new Mormons.
There's never do. They make new Mormons. They make new Mormons faster than they make new anything.
Just turn them out.
Yeah, like faster than they make Toyotas. There's more Mormons. So like, believe me, like it's just happening.
Yeah.
So there's new Mormons every day, and then Cincinnati already a Power 5 school at a time, and Houston ready to make the jump, so it makes sense. I actually do hope that, like, if every other conference is going to be 14 or 16, then the Big 12 eventually goes to that and picks up Memphis and Boise State, because I think those schools, I would like to see them be able to grow. Part of the other thing is bringing schools in. Like, that helps you grow college football.
Totally.
Part of the thing about having the Power 5 and the Group of 5 is, like, telling the Group of 5 is, like, you'll never be in here. Mm-hmm. We're better than you, and you're never going to be in here. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of 4 16-team super conferences. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you just decide that nobody else is good enough to be with us?
Sure.
When clearly proven time and time again, like, if you give somebody resources, they can grow.
Yeah.
Like, all that is just trying to keep it to yourself. I don't like that. I don't like corporate greed. You know. Yeah. And I'm not saying, like, let's be socialistic here. I'm just saying that, like, it's not helping you. It doesn't help college football, honestly, when everything is the same. In fact, the biggest changes have always occurred when Alabama, LSU, we saw that game again, when LSU should have not had to play Alabama again. LSU earned not playing Alabama again by beating Alabama in the regular season and then winning the SEC title. But then because of the stupid system we had at the time, like, no, let's see it again, 9-6. You know, like, come on. We got the playoff because of that. You know, now the playoff, the reason that the 12-team playoff expanding, I know you and I don't agree on this.
That's okay.
But the reason it's expanding is people are saying, like, we've seen Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. We've seen it.
Right.
We don't want to see it again.
Right.
Like, if there's a sequel, change it up a little bit. We don't see the same thing again and again and again. And that's why it's changing. I do think that's why a lot of the stuff is happening is this push and pull between we don't want it to change or it needs to change. Yeah. And COVID affected a lot of things financially. They have to change because ESPN's not doing this with Texas and Oklahoma because everything's hunky-damn-dory. Mm-hmm. They're doing it because they need an influx of money because they lost money too. And, you know, I'm all for everybody being in the power. Give me the Power 10. I don't care. I want to see more people have opportunities. Now, and I'm realistic in knowing that, like, if it was the Power 10 conferences, you know, is Memphis going to win the national title? No.
Right.
Probably not. Mm-hmm. But I just like having them being able to say, yes, we can. Not like, well, we can go, you know, 14-0 with a conference title game and a bowl win, but
yeah,
you know, no one cares.
And I think some of that second round of realignment will be to kind of take power back from the SEC. Because if you're on, you know, the side of the SEC, you're saying, okay, well, we're cool with how this playoff is working so far. Like, we have our teams getting in one every year, sometimes two, depending on the year. And so the fact that I think there will be a second round of realignment for that fact, because you're wanting to take power back from the SEC. And so just looking at these teams, I mean, there's a lot of teams that could be superpowers after a couple of years in this conference if you're able to keep those coaches in place and keep recruiting these areas. Like Cincinnati, if Luke Fickell stays put, they're building a dynasty over there if they can put that together. And I don't know what dynasty means exactly in the context of Cincinnati and the Big 12, but they could be a national contender year in and year out if they can get some continuity there.
Yeah, and I'll say this to wrap it up. The biggest thing is going to happen when the SEC, because they do expand the playoff to 12, which is going to happen.
Right.
Like, you can't just tease people with that meal and be like, no, it's going to be 6.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
When it does get to 12 and the SEC gets 5 teams in, that's when people are going to be like, no, the hell with that. Like, we got to go. Like, it's the people are going to want that. This is the big one, too, on 365 Sports. I'm Paul Catalina. He's JD Piquel. We're brought to you by Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Shorty'sPizzaShack.com. If you're coming into town, just look at that menu. Get the wings with the Sikkim sauce. I'm telling you, you'll thank me for life. You might give me a kidney. That's how much you'll like the wings, and I don't even need a kidney. This is the big one, too. Bijan Robinson, the subject of Chalk Talk. Next. Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125. Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com. Welcome back into the big one, too, here on 365 Sports. Paul Catalina alongside JD Piquel, brought to you by Shorty's Pizza Shack, and it's time for Chalk Talk, where we jump into Bijan Robinson. JD's got it broken down for you here. Bijan Robinson, JD, a great week in week 1 and showed huge star power. Steve Sarkisian, unlike his predecessor, knows give the ball to Bijan Robinson.
Absolutely. If you're a Texas fan, last year you're saying, why is number 5 not getting the football? He's the best player on the field. Get him the rock. And Steve Sarkisian did exactly that in the first game. 20 carries on the ground, 4 more catches. He can beat you in so many different ways, and Texas did a great job utilizing him all over the field, especially in the pass game. I was really encouraged by what they did with him there, especially in the check down game. So right here you see Louisiana says, Hudson Card, it's your first start. We're going to make you try and beat us deep. Just try and beat us deep. We dare you. So they bail out right away. He's out, he's out, he's out, he's out. They got some deep route concepts going. Bijan Robinson does a play action fake, and we'll see him check down right here. Hudson Card does a great job processing it. Little motion, little eye candy, gets out again. They're all back here. Out, out. Safety's even deep there. He's deep there. Whole lot of real estate here. So credit Hudson Card. Get the ball to your best player, man. Bijan Robinson does a great job catching it. Right here, that's enough. That's a positive play. You got the ball to your best player. You have positive yardage as opposed to an incompletion. Bijan Robinson is special after the catch. He makes a man miss and gets you to at least 2nd and 1, 1st and 10, somewhere in that range. Bottom line, positive play, and a play that really your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd option were all taken away. You wanted to go deep on this play, check it down to your best player and gain 9 yards, potentially a 1st down. A little shake and bake by Bijan. Ooh. Anytime you can check it down and get a 1st down is huge. You see it again here. Bijan's lined up in the slot. Anytime you can put your running back in the slot, like running backs should not be able to do that at most Power 5 schools. Like you give them the ball on the ground. You give them the ball on jet motions. You try to find creative ways to give them the football. You can line them up at slot. That's a huge deal. We saw Reggie Bush do it. We saw Christian McCaffrey do it. Special players like that. So let's back it up here even a little more. Bijan Robinson, one-on-one against a DB. Shows you what Louisiana thinks about him. Give him a little something at the top. And he's tempoing out of this, meaning he's letting all the route concepts behind him develop. He's not going full speed. He's trying to just make him uncomfortable and give him a little bit of shake and bake at the top. And we'll see him break inside. Bam. All of this real estate. He pushes on his heels. All of this real estate's right here for Bijan Robinson. Soft hands to catch it. Get upfield. Really reminds me a lot of the way that Stanford would utilize Christian McCaffrey. It was really a lot of the same kind of schemes. They're trying to get him in the slot, trying to get him the ball, and in space and allow him to utilize his skill set and do what he does best. A lot of impressive things.
Yeah, and you mentioned Christian McCaffrey. That's a good comparison there. He's running wide receiver routes there. That's what he's doing. That's wide receiver stuff. So you can put him anywhere on the field. They could put him probably on the outside, and he could do that if they asked him to.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of athlete that Bijan Robinson is, and the kind of guy Texas hasn't really had in a little bit.
No, and most of the time when you see running backs lined up at wide receiver or lined up in the slot, a lot of times it's just kind of a dummy signal. It's just them to be out there and take up space, and you have to honor it. Bijan Robinson is live every single place he lines up, especially at receiver. Another thing I love about him, he gets downhill in a hurry. A lot of these younger backs, a lot of backs, especially in a scheme like this where you have to be patient with your blocks, they tend to be overly patient, meaning you try to wait for the exact perfect crease. Not Bijan Robinson. He sees it right away, gets his foot in the ground, and gets downhill. Little eye candy for you against Steve Sarkisian. So look, he tempos it enough, but when he sees it, boom, he's going. He's not waiting half a second more to get downhill and get positive yardage. Runs behind his pads really, really well, and just the elite speed to get there. So he sees it, boom, he's there. And then right here, this is what it's blocked for. He's blocked it up just to this amount, Steve Sarkisian has. At this point, this is all extra Bijan yardage right here. Get off me, spin move, fall forward for a first down. Big time play. You see it again here. Foot in the ground, young man. Right there, he's full speed. At this point, he sees it. They blocked it up. It's like almost like a wide zone-esque kind of scheme. He's got the block he wants right here. He's going to press heels a little more, and then bam, he's there. Up and underneath it. Runs to an arm tackle, fall forward for a first down. Runs behind his pads really well, like I said. Sometimes, like I said, the tendency is try and find the exact perfect spot, then I'll go full speed. Bijan presses heels, full speed up to the gap.
Yeah, and he's at a university with a great tradition of running backs. Look, Earl Campbell, one of the greats of all time, was there. Ricky Williams, Heisman Trophy winner. Jamal Charles, Priest Holmes, all played at Texas. A lot of great tradition at running back. He is certainly already early on giving people a little bit of those feelings again.
Oh, absolutely, and he runs behind his pads really well. He has great leverage, so sometimes you saw Adrian Peterson way back in the day. It's a little bit of a throwback. He runs very upright because he's such a great athlete and he's so strong. Most people can't do that, and a lot of people try to do that and they can't. Bijan Robinson understands he has to play to his strengths. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's strong, don't get me wrong. He's not 6'3". He runs behind his pads really well, so when he hits that hole, he's getting there north and south, and he's running behind his pads and making sure he has good pad leverage to use that physical frame. Right here, running behind his blocks. Again, hits it hard. What I love right here, so again, this is as far as it's blocked for. You're blocked for like, what, 4 or 5 yard gain, maybe 6 for being generous. He's got 2 guys on him right now, Bijan does. Drive the legs, young fella, drive the legs. He runs through it, carries a guy, takes, what, 3, 4, 5 guys. You got a whole slew of guys trying to take down Bijan Robinson. Whole lot of manpower for Bijan Robinson to get that first down and keep his legs churning. That's what I love so much about him too. He's able to create more than what the play is blocked for, and we'll see it here against Louisiana. There are several times they got him dead to rights for like a 2-yard loss, but Bijan Robinson gets a guy off him, is able to recreate space and get north and south, which is what they need him to do at running back. So right here, he's got the block. He is out leveraged here. What Bijan Robinson wants him to do, he wants to capture that outside shoulder so he can get around him and get downhill. He does a poor job here of making that block. So right here, we're in trouble. He comes loose. We're in trouble. Makes a man miss right here. Makes just enough of a shimmy. He's not a big shake and bake guy, but he does enough to be able to create space and create yards for himself. So again, that's probably a 2-yard loss. It's first down, you got Bijan Robinson on your team. He runs physical, he runs hard, and after a while, that starts to wear on teams. I mean, you see it here the third quarter. Those form-fit tackles start to turn to arm tackles. Hey, we don't want to tackle number 5 quite as much as we did in the first quarter. And so that's the advantage you have with a guy like Bijan Robinson. Continues to keep his legs churning, runs physical the entire time, and plays at 1 speed. I mean, he'll make sure his blocks are set up. When he sees it, though, he's going.
Yeah, he's fantastic to watch, and beginning of the third quarter, you're already giving up. I mean, like that shows you how punishing he is. He's not even at this point in the game. He's only like a third of the way, not even half the way into what he was going to do for the day.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that they have 4 offensive line coming back, they've got guys up front that can block for him. But when he can create plays for what more than it's blocked for, that's where you have really big problems as a defense. So you see it again here. We saw it early on. Stumbles. He makes the wrong read. So listen, they're up here, and he realizes that. Most running backs right there, no gain, loss of a yard, no biggie, we'll play again, we'll play the next down. BIJAN regains his balance and, again, picks up more than what it's blocked for. Takes guys with him, we're out of there. And that's not a bad play, but it is a negative play if you are an offense. Like, you're not gaining yards. You're behind schedule at that point. So BIJAN Robinson can kind of be that eraser for you. We didn't have it blocked perfectly. We didn't have everything we wanted in terms of what the look was for the defense, but still able to pick up 7 yards. When you can mess up on a play, have guys miss an assignment, make the wrong read as a back, still gain 7 yards is crucial. So one more time we'll see it here. So in this scheme, we call this like a wide zone. And my coach in college would always say, listen, you don't cut wide zone back unless you literally can't get tackled and they have a Honda, meaning they have a Honda chasing you and they still can't tackle you. BIJAN Robinson makes probably what would be an ill-advised cut for most people. So look, 3 or 4 guys, they all have BIJAN Robinson dead to rights. But number 5, again, special player, special ability. You don't want to get in the habit of doing this, but the fact that you can do this is a luxury for your offense. So it makes probably the wrong read because he missed his block right here. We'll back it up a little bit more. He gets beat, so the play's got to get started somehow. You try to run this way, maybe you get it, but you got some problems with who's getting free at that first block. Cut it back. You're not supposed to, but he does. First down, Texas.
That's what you call a no. Okay. Play.
Good. First down. We'll go.
No. Like, again, like, no. Don't do that. No, that's fine. Yeah. Good. Yeah, it works.
This is one on tape where on Sunday morning, Monday morning, whenever they watch film at Texas, said, BIJAN, what were you doing right here? He's like, Coach, when it's me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter when it's me. I can do that kind of thing.
Yeah. Don't do it again, but thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, exactly. Don't do that again. We're not going to coach that, but I mean, if you do it and helps me as a running back coach keep my job. And finally, all good backs have this, a nose for the end zone. And you've worn on him at this point. Again, we talked about third quarter. You're tired of tackling number 5. He's been running downhill all day behind his pads. You've won some plays as a defense in the fact that you've gotten them behind the line of scrimmage, but it doesn't matter because you can't tackle him. He's too dynamic, too elusive, too explosive, and at the end of the day, just gets downhill. You see here, quick jump cut. He doesn't even really want to tackle him. You'll see it on the film. Yeah, I don't really. This is what you call conveniently late to the football, meaning, Coach, I was there, just couldn't finish on the tackle. I'm sorry about that. Conveniently late, misses the tackle. BIJAN Robinson, full head of steam, touchdown, strike at the band, Texas.
There you go, BIJAN Robinson. Going to be a headache for everybody in the Big 12 and the non-Big 12. Whoever he plays, he's going to be a headache for. He's the guy that they're spending most of the time on film. And it's probably like 70% BIJAN Robinson, 10% Jordan Whittington, 20% everybody else in that offense. Because, again, like Hudson Card, they're not going to ask Hudson Card to do a lot other than distribute. That's what his job is, to distribute, make plays when you absolutely need to. But BIJAN Robinson is the workhorse, and it's going to be amazing to see what he does down the line here.
Absolutely. I think he's the Heisman favorite if you're not a quarterback, right? Like, according to Vegas, the odds are BIJAN Robinson, then whoever else playing not quarterback is potentially Heisman favorites. But for him, the big thing I'm looking forward to seeing how Texas utilizes him is how much do you save him in games where you don't need to do a lot with BIJAN Robinson, meaning you're up by 20, 30 points. I don't know if Texas will have a ton of games where they're up 20, 30 points, but potentially they find themselves in that situation. Can you save BIJAN Robinson for those big games down the stretch, the Iowa States, the Texas games? Games like that where you need number 5 to be at his best and be at full health. So they're going to force feed him the football. Can they keep him healthy is going to be the key for Texas as they move on.
All right, that's Chalk Talk this week on BIJAN Robinson, and that's going to do it for us here on the Big 1-2. Thanks to Shorty's Pizza Shack. Thanks to Jack McKenzie and Armstrong Sims. We're back next week. Enjoy the football weekend, everybody. J.D. Piquel and Paul Catalina on the Big 1-2. Please like and subscribe. Is that what I'm doing? Can we put it in like, subscribe, do that thing on the Big 1-2 on 365 Sports.